Welcome back into Tide Talk Live. Stacey Blackwood of Roll Tide Wire, joined by always by my good buddy Jake Thomas. Jake, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Man, it says I'm doing great. It's been getting ready for the fourth, and being a big Civil War buff guy, I am. I love the Civil War and the history about it. But today's the first of July. So what's significant about today is the Battle of Gettysburg started on the first and went through the third, and then of course we have our independence on the fourth. So that I found that very interesting. So just that I've been thinking about that today.
Little history lesson here as we get the show underway.
Yeah.
Certainly excited about the upcoming holiday. Hope everybody gets
Mhm.
to enjoy that with some friends and family, and be safe with the fireworks and all that stuff as well.
Mhm.
Good show tonight lined up, Jake. We're going to be talking about some recruiting, obviously, because it has been a sweltering hot summer for Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff on the recruiting trail. Landed 9 commitments in the month of June,
Wow.
Jake, as we sit here on July 1st as we record this episode. And, potentially more good news coming, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. We'll also talk about uh, Walter Camp releasing its preseason All-American teams. Alabama landing 4 players on that. So we'll dive into that. We'll dive into whatever else comes to mind as we sit here on this Monday night and record this episode. But please do like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. We're also free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Make sure that you head on over to the Believe Network, where you can find our show and a plethora of other college football shows, NFL shows, any type of sports show you can think of. Believe has it on their incredible network. And we are presented by betonline.ag. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season, from baseball, golf, soccer, right to all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. Then, Jake, when the game is over, you can head on over to their online casino and get in on the game of blackjack or poker, or just simply unwind with one of the 150 slot games that they have available there at betonline.ag. So head on to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. That's BetOnline. The game starts here. All right, Jake, let's just start with recruiting talk, because it has been, like I mentioned a minute ago, just an incredible summer for Kalen DeBoer and his staff, moving up to the number 2 class in the country for 2025, landing the likes of Keelan Russell, Jackson Lloyd, Michael Carroll, just some of the best prospects in the country, with more on the way, it seems, Jake. And that's what we'll kind of focus on tonight. We're recording this on Monday night, July 1st, so you'll likely get this on Tuesday, which is going to be a big day. And that's where we're going to start with Caleb Edwards, Jake, one of the best tight ends in the country. It's not every day you find a high school tight end that's 6'6", 235, 240,
Wow.
that can do both aspects of his position at a pretty high level. Most of the time a high school tight end is either really just a sixth offensive lineman, or he's a pass catcher like a Caleb Odom type player. But Caleb Edwards can kind of do both, Jake, at a really, really high clip. So I think Alabama's getting kind of a complete tight end. I think Cam Latu, when I look at him just from his build, the ability that he has to be not only a good blocker, but also help out in the passing game, Jake. He's going to be announcing on July 2nd, which is Tuesday. It looks like Alabama is in the lead for this guy, and beating out teams like Auburn, Oregon, Texas, UCLA, Washington, from El Dorado Hills, California. One of the best tight ends in the country. This would be a big get for Kalen DeBoer and his staff.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be a big time player, and man, this recruiting, I believe they have coined it cold summer. So, man, this cold summer is definitely been awesome on the recruiting trail, man. Them guys, they're hitting hot and heavy. Caleb Edwards is going to be a stud in this offense that Kevin
Mhm.
DeBoer likes to run. So I can't wait to see him on campus next year. But of course, he's got to commit. But I do feel like he's going to commit tomorrow.
Yeah, Alabama appears to be in really good shape for him, and it would be big because tight end position's kind of been a little bit of mystery in this recruiting cycle, but they need a solid player there, Jake. CJ
Mhm.
Dupree is out of eligibility this year, and unless Robbie Oots, happens to suffer an injury and then has to takes a medical red shirt, he's out of eligibility after this season as well. So there's two guys that could be potentially gone. Danny Lewis is he's a redshirt junior. Who knows
Mhm.
what could happen with him? They've moved Caleb Odom to wide receiver. So tight end is really a position of need for this class, and you need a guy that can kind of do both. And Caleb Edwards kind of fits that mold and would just be a really good addition to this recruiting class. As we look at other guys that are making decisions this week, also tomorrow or on Tuesday, July 2nd, Javion Campbell, one of the best defensive linemen in the class of 2025 from the state of Kentucky. There was a lot of Alabama momentum a couple weeks ago. It seems like Kentucky, the in-state Wildcats, are kind of getting back into good position for Campbell, the top player in the state of Kentucky. I think this one's going down to the wire, Jake. I'm not sure that either team feels out of it yet, but it does feel like an Alabama-Kentucky battle that could go down, like I said, to the wire for one of the top defensive linemen in the country.
Yeah, it may go down to where he may be sitting there ready to announce, and like, man, I don't know which one of these hats to pick up, because I feel great at both places. So Alabama's in good standing with him. I think they've done all they can, and it's just going to depend on where he wants to go and where his heart's desired at. So remain to be seen on that one tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Campbell's being recruited to play that bandit position in this 4-2-5 defense, a really important position for Kane Womack. But you got to think that this is going to be a light recruiting class from a defensive line standpoint. I believe they have 13 guys on scholarship right now on the defensive line, and only one guy being Tim Smith that will be out of eligibility after the season. So they've already got two guys committed in the 2025 class. So Campbell, if he does in fact pick the Crimson Tide, that could wrap up the defensive line class for 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how it goes tomorrow. I'm excited, but man, the Wildcats are in it to win this one. So it's going to be tough, and it's going to go right down to the wire.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat out the home state Wildcats. You got to give Mark Stoops a lot of credit. He's done a great job building a relationship with him.
Mhm.
And Kentucky's over the course of the last 10, 15 years have produced some pretty good football players for Alabama. Whether you think of Damian Harris, Jedrick Wills, those are
Yeah,
two really good players. Think about, I think, Saban's first class, Brandon Dedrick from Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
yeah,
The state of Kentucky's been pretty solid for this Alabama program over the past 2 decades or so.
yeah, for sure.
Then Wednesday, Jake, one of the best outside linebackers, defensive ends, however you want to look at it. He's going to play the wolf position. He's being recruited as a wolf for Alabama. That's Justin Hill, a really talented player from the state of Ohio. This seems to be an Alabama-Ohio State battle for the elite Ohio recruit, Jake. Uh, you know, this is one of those, much like Campbell. I think right now it could go either way. And I think if Alabama could pull him from the state of Ohio, this would be just an incredible job by Kalen DeBoer, by the entire coaching staff, if they can get Justin Hill from the state of Ohio.
Yeah, this is another one that's going to go right down in the wire, probably to the last second. And yeah, he's a guy that I would love to have on this team. Um, but again, this could go either way. Ohio State's put up a great fight. Ryan Day's done a great job, as well as Kalen DeBoer and the coaching staff. But yeah, I really feel like Alabama's got some momentum here, but overall, it's going to be tough to pull him away from the home team, honestly.
Yeah, and Alabama, like I said, they're recruiting him as a wolf. They have one wolf commitment so far in this class, and that came last week with Dawson Merritt. So, it wouldn't be a huge loss for Alabama, but it would be a massive win for them if they could pull him out of the state of Ohio. There's several more guys, Jake, that are committing this week or making their announcement. Damian Shanklin, another defensive lineman, looks like an LSU lean at this point in time. He's kind of that edge defender. I think Alabama would probably, recruit him at that bandit spot as well. But like I mentioned, that this class is not going to be really big for in terms of the defensive linemen they signed because of all the guys they have, returning next season at that particular position. But one more guy, Jake, that's going to be making their commitment on later this week is Faison Brandon, the number one quarterback in the class of 2026, a guy who was on campus in Tuscaloosa just a couple weeks ago, and by all accounts had an incredible visit with Coach DeBoer and Nick Sheridan and the offensive coaching staff there in Tuscaloosa. And right now it looks like a battle between Tennessee and Alabama for the North Carolina product, a guy who is a top 10 overall player for the class of 2026. Like I mentioned, the number one quarterback in that class right now. And, with the momentum that Alabama has in 2025, if they were able to kind of get that 2026 class jump started with the number one quarterback, that's nothing but good news for Kalen DeBoer and his staff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is 2026 that this Campbell is, but the thing about it, even if he commits to Tennessee, you can still have discussions with him and everything.
Yeah.
And the way everything's set up now, it's all about NIL. So you might find out what Tennessee offered, and then just up the ante, later on, and it's just one of them deals right now. But moving forward with the recruitment and all that, I really trust his coaching staff to get the guys that they want on this team. And if they want anybody in the 2026 class, they're going to go after them. They're going to go after them hard. And it's just going to be on the player to decide to whether he wants to come to Alabama or go elsewhere.
Yeah, and I misspoke on Faison Brandon. He doesn't commit till August 3rd, but it's still a big position for Alabama to be recruiting here in the class of 2026. If they could land, that five-star quarterback to, like I said, kind of catapult that class for the next cycle, that would just be huge for Coach DeBoer's staff. But it remains to be seen. Like you said, it's a long way to go in either direction. No matter who he chooses,
right?
It's a long way to go until signing day for Faison Brandon. So a lot to kind of look forward to there. There's a lot of guys that will be committing throughout the month of July, even August, leading up to the start of the college football season in late August. So there's a lot to look forward to on the recruiting trail. The summer month, July, Jake. You talk about not only recruiting, but you think about SEC Media Days coming up. Yeah. Today was kind of the first day that Oklahoma and Texas are officially a part of the Southeastern Conference. Mm-hmm. So July is destined to be an incredible month for the SEC and for Alabama as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. See what July holds. Like you mentioned earlier, Stacey, the month of June for Alabama was awesome. So I'm hoping that the momentum continues going. And then July is also a momentum month leading up into the season, the start of fall camp and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And the recruiting never stops. So there's always going to be news breaking, especially in the summer months with the way, the early signing period is now in December. The guys are wanting to make their decisions before their senior season actually starts. So July and August is going to be huge in terms of recruiting. So, make sure you are subscribed here on YouTube so you don't miss any of the stuff that we post, because we'll be here covering it, daily if we have to in terms of recruiting. So big news coming up, I think, for Alabama this week. It's going to be a huge week for recruiting. And then, like I mentioned, here in a couple of weeks, SEC Media Days will roll around, and that will be huge with Kalen DeBoer making his first stint as the Alabama head football coach in Texas this year for SEC Media Day. So looking forward to that as well. But, Jack, we're going to wrap the show today talking about the Walter Camp Football Foundation releasing their first and second team preseason All-Americans. And Alabama lands 4 players on those 2 teams, Jake. Mm-hmm. 2 first-team guys, 2 second-team guys. And, I think when you see the names, are you surprised? Tyler Booker, Graham Nelson, first-team guys. Second-team guys are Parker Brailsford and James Burnip. Do you think Walter Camp got it right?
Yeah, I think he's good on those. Alabama's probably got the best interior defense or offensive line in the country with Brailsford, Tyler Booker, and then Jaden Roberts on the other side of Brailsford. So no doubt there that Tyler Booker and Brailsford should be on that on that list. And then Nick, Burnup and Nicholson. Nicholson, of course, just won the award last year over Will Rockard. I can't think what that award is called right now.
Lou Groza.
Lou Groza. So he won that, and as the best kicker in the country. Now he's coming to Alabama, who he's going to thrive at. And then you got James Burnup, who it seems like James Burnup has gotten better every single year in an Alabama uniform. So really excited about the duo of the specialist teams as well, because those guys are really good.
Yeah, I think when you look at this list, Jake, it really outlines two of the strengths of this Alabama football team. You mentioned it with Booker being a first-team All-American, Brailsford being a second-team All-American. That's 2/3 of what I think is the best interior offensive line in the country. You look at Jaden Roberts as the other interior guy for Alabama. Those three guys, and then you add in Caden Proctor and, either Elijah Pritchard or Will Conform, but you're looking at this Alabama offensive line as one of the best offensive lines in the country in 2024. And then the specialists, like you mentioned, Jake, nobody has the specialist duo that Alabama has.
Right.
The first-team All-American place kicker and the second-team All-American punter in James Burnup. Just fantastic stuff. And Burnup was huge for Alabama down the stretch. Yep. I don't think people realize how clutch he was for Alabama. He had a couple punts against Auburn, Jake, that were tough to field, that were deep. He even had one that, the guy muffed, and that's when out that what led to 4th and 31.
Yep.
So Burnup, and then against Michigan in the Rose Bowl, Jake, he kept us in that game with his deep punts, causing Michigan to muff one. And, they nearly muffed one at the end that would have gave us the ball at the, 1 yard line.
Right.
And so James Burnup's impact on this team cannot be overstated. When you think back to how important J.K. Scott was to Alabama when he was at, the zenith of his career in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah,
that's what James Burnup's going to be for Alabama in 2024. And then, like you mentioned, Graham Nicholson won the Lou Groza Award last year over Will Rockard, who's the NCAA's all-time leading scorer. So Alabama replaces the NCAA's all-time leading scorer with the previous year's Lou Groza winner. So, the rich get richer, and Alabama has the best specialist duo in the country. And, as long as they got a good snapper, I think they'll be all right on special teams.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's just a ssnapper,
and a holder. They need a holder too, but I think Burnup does the holding.
Yeah, I think we're going to be good on that as well. But man, this, we keep saying it, but all these, through the recruiting and then through these awards that you're seeing, you'll see some trickle out from the next couple of weeks. It's exciting to get excited about this team this year, because everything that's happened this offseason with Saban retiring, this team is still loaded, and I feel like there's a chip on their shoulder for what happened this past year, losing out in a heartbreaking fashion to Michigan, who went on to win the national championship. They've got something to prove to the world that Alabama is still the standard, and I think these guys are hungry, and that's what they're going to go after. They're going after the national championship this year.
Yeah, I think hungry is a great way to describe this 2024 Alabama team. And I'm excited to see how they attack fall camp and what they look like in that opening week against Western Kentucky. Man, it can't get here soon enough. I'm excited about this season, more excited than I've been in a long time, because it's a kind of a breath of fresh air. And speaking of that Nick Saban guy, he's still doing all right as well, making that $500,000 a year and 4 cents. Can't forget that 4 cents in his new role as a professional, whatever that means. But he's an advisor to the football program, is what he is.
Exactly. I mean, it's perfect with Kevin DeBoer to keep him on around, because you can show all the recruits everything about how great Alabama is, and then he's like, okay, here's the greatest coach of all time. Come talk to him for 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, Kevin DeBoer has pushed all the right buttons, but you got to give Nick Saban credit too for the way he handled, the transition from him to Kalen DeBoer, because Saban completely left his ego at the door. He didn't want to stick around another year to kind of have a curtain call everywhere he went. He said, you know what, I'm going to step aside, but I'm still going to be here if he needs me.
Right.
And I'm going to give him all the access he needs to me personally and professionally to help this transition go as smooth as possible. So, not only does Kalen DeBoer need to receive a lot of credit for the way he has handled, being the head coach for the I guess, first 6 months he's been on the job,
Yeah.
but also the way that Nick Saban has handled stepping out of the spotlight, kind of into the backdrop, but still being there a part of the program and assisting in any way that he can.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's exciting time still. It's Alabama's not done,
No.
by no means. So this transition is going well, and Alabama's still going to be at the top. I'm telling you guys that there's nothing about this team.
Yeah, and we're going to wrap this show up right now, but I want to give a little bit of a teaser to what we're going to do the next show on. And Jake don't even know this yet because this just popped in mind.
Uh-oh.
I'm going. Our next show is going to be why I think Alabama should be preseason number 1.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that's going to be our next show. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, whatever it is, however you listen or watch us. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you get, notified when we drop our content, because I think you're not going to miss that episode, because I think I'm going to be speaking from a realistic point of view and not just from a fan's point of view when you listen to the points that I make of why I believe Alabama should be preseason number 1. And that's just a little bit of a teaser for our next episode.
I can't wait now.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, that's going to wrap up the show for today. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in. If you happen to be listening on Apple, make sure you subscribe and then leave us that 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for following us on Spotify. We have a lot of followers over there as well. People listen to us on Amazon Music as well. So thank you guys so much for that. Our YouTube channel just continues to thrive and continue to grow. Help us build to 3,000 subscribers, then 5,000 subscribers. Shoot, we can make 10,000 subscribers, no problem. All you got to do is smash that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button as well and hit that bell so you get notified every single time we drop a new episode. We got some exciting stuff rolling out throughout the rest of the summer. Cannot wait to dive into all that. We'll be here from now till football season and beyond, and we can't wait to sharing that with you guys as well. So make sure you jump in the comments, give us your thoughts on today's show and where you think these prospects that we've talked about will end up going. Don't cheat. Don't answer it after they've already committed. That's cheating. Make sure you put that prediction in before those guys actually make those announcements. But we appreciate everybody so much for tuning in. Hope y'all have a good evening. We'll see you again soon. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.